saluto di Inter worldwide. The man who I'm joined with today doesn't really need an introduction. He's both representing his great self and Italian football TV. It's Peter Curto. Thanks once again for joining Inter Worldwide, brother.
Thank you, guys. Forza Inter from New York. Worldwide is right? Australia to US. I love it.
That's it, man. That's how we do it. And it's typical Pazza Inter. Pazza Universe 2020. But foolish of us for thinking that we'd be the ones to buck that trend. The exit from the Champions League, Peter, was painful. If you guys haven't checked out IFTV, make sure you do. They do amazing game reactions and match reactions, and it's at my understanding that Peter, you actually thought your studio where you do a lot of your recordings is jinxed because every time you rocked up there, I think a negative result followed, and the whole world was there to see it on live stream. So, Peter, talk to us a little bit about your reaction to the Champions League's exit, and also veer into how Inter have responded domestically, because I think I speak for yourself and every other Interista where the light at the end of the tunnel is the simple no excuses. Let's buckle down and work hard and take what we truly think should be rightfully ours this season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was the whole worry with me with the jinx. Going back to the jinx story. I mean, we were watching with Marco and Mike in the live stream with Antonio and everybody, and it's like you're watching the game, and then it seemed like Inter wouldn't get the results that they should have gotten, and then I stayed home, not because of the jinx. I was just like, I had work and I wasn't able to free up my time. So I was watching it from home and in my work office, and we won, right? Now all of a sudden I just played along with it. I was like, listen, it must be a jinx. The last game of the group stage, I'm just gonna stay home. I'll watch it from my house just in case. You never know what could happen. Typical Interista thinking. And turns out that the studio is not a jinx. Turns out that just I think Conte is the one that's a jinx. He's unfortunately the cat on his hat isn't bringing away any bad luck when it comes to Europe, and he can't get out of that group stage. And yes, it was a tough group, but when you look at the games individually, Inter should have been out of that group. Inter should have taken care of business. We were lucky to get anywhere close to getting out of that group after those performances versus Real Madrid. And we just had everything lined up for us to just win. And what we did was worry about the other game and the Biscotto and what's going to happen with Real Madrid and Borussia. But we couldn't score one goal against Shakhtar Donetsk, where Borussia Mönchengladbach put away 10 goals in 2 games. So obviously very disappointing. Not necessarily. It wasn't going to be our year in the Champions League. Let's face the reality. But I think this team could have gone far, or would have been, somewhat of a challenge for any of these top teams, based on our defensive awareness and how we approach the game. And then also we have some top players. Let's not forget that we do have top players.
Yeah.
And that's one point that I'm upset with Conte, because Conte always seems to want to just brush it to the side and say, oh, we were versing Real Madrid. They're better than us. They know how to win these games. That's BS, man, because this is one of the worst Real Madrid teams we've ever seen. Probably the worst Real Madrid of all time. And you weren't able to get the job done. So stop deflecting. I also understand, like in the beginning of the season with COVID, we didn't have our straight back line, and we saw it even in the Serie A games. Now with the Bastoni, De Vrij, Skriniar, I've been saying it all since the beginning. This is the defense. This is the defense that is going to be able to keep Inter in the matches, and they're much better than having a Kolarov or having a D'Ambrosio or one of these makeshift defensive lines. But again, disappointed in Conte and his stubbornness. I think he's still a great coach, but he is so stubborn and only keeps to his 3-5-2 and doesn't want to change. He waited way too long to make subs. You have to go in there to win the game. And he didn't do that. He went in there being cautious and trying to make sure that we don't let in a goal rather than going all out and scoring. And you know what? It proves to me, because the next game, when we were down versus Cagliari, what did he do? He changed the formation. Because he was down 1-0. At 0-0 versus Shakhtar, it's like losing 1-0. You have to win this game. So you have to put in the extra striker earlier. Sanchez going in way too late. Eriksen going in way too late. So Those are things that he definitely made a mistake on, and he's got to do better. He doesn't read the game as well as others. Let's say Zidane, who I think reads the game so well, and even versus the Inter games that Real Madrid played, he made those two subs, and obviously it's easy because you have Rodrigo on the bench, Vinicius on the bench that you can put on, but Conte's got to do better, and his deflection, he's got to stop with it. Inter is the team that has to try to win the Scudetto, and that, I'm sorry to say, he doesn't want to say it, but I'll say it. It's an obligation for Inter to win the Scudetto, for Conte to keep his job.
100%, man. Because if he doesn't win the Scudetto, he's definitely going to walk out of here in a blaze of him making all sorts of BS excuses. For the salary that we're paying him, you need someone that you think would be more tactically flexible, someone who would have not only a plan B but maybe a C and a D as well. But at the moment, it's just one dimension forward, and it really shows that last season when we were on the hype and the momentum, we were grabbing a lot of really early goals in our fixtures. It was our forte. The first 10 minutes were our go-to zone. Once the glitz and glamour is worn off a little bit and the fatigue sets in and the physiology sets in, this team gasses it really quickly. And this season, it's kind of been the reverse. We've had to dig really, really deep. But once again, that's what Peter said. It's kind of been when we have made those changes, but most of the time they have been too late. And that was evident against Shakhtar. He's thrown in our attacking forces and our creative force in Christian Eriksen on way too late. Just before we move on to talk a bit about Serie A, while I've got Peter here, I will definitely touch on a couple of sensitive issues in the media right now. The whole Christian Eriksen thing. Do you think he's out in January? And do you think the rumors of us bringing in Rodrigo de Paul have any substance to that, man? Because at the moment, big fan of Christian Eriksen's ability myself, but there's no denying it, brother, man. It's a square in a round hole, as they say. It's simple as that. There's no fit. He's just not fitting, and you can tell Conte doesn't trust him. He doesn't like him. He's not going to use him. For the same amount of money, we can probably get one of the most dynamic, versatile Conte-esque kind of midfielders in the league, and Rodrigo de Paul is a shining light in a bang average Udinese side. So what are your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, when we signed Eriksen, I think all the Inter fans were excited by the potential because he's a technical player and he is a genius on the pitch. But we all had the same questions from the beginning. This is not a Conte player. He doesn't run. He doesn't run. He's not going to hustle to chase down the ball. He's not going to be that hungry player. He's going to be the player that can make that killer pass. He's going to be the player that can hit the free kick and put in a grip cross and seize the pitch and score some goals. But he also needs the confidence to do it. And I see that under Conte hasn't given him a lot of chances. When he has given him the chances, unfortunately, Eriksen has not done a great job. He's had highlights, bits and pieces, even in the Cagliari game. He gave that ball to Lukaku one-on-one with the goal. He's got to finish in the first half. He made one of those passes, but then he kind of falls out because he doesn't fit into Conte's system in what he wants to do. So at that point, we really have to figure out, is it best that Eriksen, we sell him or put him on loan or whatever, and try to understand what is the project. Because in the end, the project should be Inter. Conte is not going to be forever. Inter is the project, and Eriksen is a great player to lose out on way too early. So if there's any question marks with Conte, I would personally send Eriksen on loan. Of course, you have to see who can be a taker on that, but take him on loan, and then see if he does well, then you can definitely sell him for a better price in June. Or if Conte is on his way out, he's going to be a big piece of Inter with another coach. I believe that. Yeah. De Paul, listen, that guy deserved to be out of Udinese. Not now, last year, maybe 2 years ago. He has been a great player in that midfield. He's a technical player, but also does the dirty work. I think it can be I'm not saying a Vidal version, because obviously different type of player. Vidal is an animal, more tenacious, more like a Barella, but definitely that Paul can give that technical ability in that midfield where a Gagliardini maybe lacks in, right? So that's my thoughts. And like you said,
it's very, very logical and well thought out, man, especially the whole part of, Conte's time at Inter is expiring. I actually would go one step further and say this guy could win the Scudetto with us this year and just go, you know what, I gave you what you wanted, see you later, man. I'm not doing another season. I can honestly see that happening, even if we did win the Scudetto. An Inter project without Conte, it's not an if, it's an inevitable when, and it could be sooner rather than later. So I think Peter makes a great point there about sending him out on loan because worst case scenario, he gains a little bit of form and we sell him off for a price that wouldn't hurt our books in attaining somebody to replace him. Or, maybe an even another scenario in the horrible situation that Conte does leave for bad reasons, or even in a leaves after winning the Scudetto, Eriksen could come back under the next boss who would most likely pay for at the back and needs that creative midfielder a little bit more to unlock another team's defense. Let's look ahead domestically, Pete. Bro, we've got the best form in the league. This is the point where we need to take the F off and take a stranglehold on Serie A. If we let the opportunity slip from December to January, we're going to make it really hard for ourselves. Over the next 6 to 7 games, that's the point of time where we're going to see who's ready to go the distance and who's just been pretending for the first 12 match days. So let's talk a little bit about our last couple of wins. Because there's so many games compact together, I won't go back too many games. I mean, I could go back 2 weeks and we could talk about 4 games in the last 2 weeks. But I think we'll just stick to the 3-1 win in Cagliari, and we'll talk a little bit about Napoli as well. So the Cagliari game, you touched on it as well. One of those dead rubber sort of games where you're like, both teams don't look motivated. So both teams aren't looking to unlock the game. As you said, our players are too good to just sit back and play for the 3-5-2 for Conte and just wait for something to happen the whole match. So Cagliari was one of those games, but we did turn it around in the end. What were your thoughts on that performance, man? Because it was an absolute critical 3 points before Napoli.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, these are the games, especially coming off of the Champions League debacle. You need to have a game that you win, and I think in the first half, Inter outplayed Cagliari. I think we did create enough that we should have maybe went up 1-0, 2-0, and all of a sudden Cagliari gets on a break, and they take one shot and they score. Boom, that's all it takes.
Story of our life, man.
Yeah. So you're looking at that and you're like, oh my God, not again. This is, especially for me, I woke up, I know I can't really complain because in Australia, you guys got crazy ass hours. But I woke up 6 o'clock in the morning to watch that game on a Sunday to show dedication. And then, you see Inter playing well, but just can't score. Same story in Champions. They can't score. Lukaku, whoever it is. And then they score that 1-0. I was so upset. Then even within the second half, kind of like Inter mentally, they looked like they were trying to get into the game, but they couldn't break it. And whether it's they needed to make a sub because these guys are exhausted both mentally and physically, or just need that one goal to break through, and then things are going to start opening up. And that's what happened. Barella hit a great volley. To tie the game against his hometown club, right? From Sardinia, from Cagliari, obviously, played with Cagliari. But what a hit. Scores that goal. And then shortly after, Hakimi pulls out injured. You're like, oh, man, we needed to win this game. D'Ambrosio, oh, no. And this guy scores the goal to put Inter in the lead 2-1 on a corner kick. And then Lukaku finishing it off. Obviously, we suffered in 2-1. Cagliari had some chances, which I don't understand why Inter, they kind of like just not necessarily crumble, but they bend way too much for the team that they have. They have to give it to the other team. And there's going to be times, obviously, that Cagliari, they're going to be on the attack, but we have to be more stable and more firm in our style of play to not submit so many chances, right? And then Lukaku scoring that third goal and 3-1, and big relief.
That's it, man. Death taxes Danilo D'Ambrosio at the back post. I was someone who thought he would be on that transfer list for the last 2 seasons or so, same as many fans. But I think in the last season and a bit, he's come up clutch so many times at crucial moments. You can't ever get rid of this player, Peter, to be honest. I think he'll stay for a long time.
Listen, I think he's a great player in the sense that he's clutch, right? He's not the
Yeah,
best players as far as technical ability, tactical ability, but what he does give you is that to tenacious play, right? He's always getting in the mix. He's not afraid to do the dirty work. And a guy like that off the bench, he's a good teammate. He loves Inter. He respects Inter. And off the bench, he can give you a solid 10 minutes here and there, and he can fill in as a jolly. He can play versus the Spezias, right? That we got a game up and coming this weekend. He can play versus
yeah,
Spezia. He can do a dirty work in as the wing back, or he can play as the third defender. So he is, he can play in those different positions, and that's useful for this Inter team.
100%, man. Let's touch on Napoli a little bit quickly before we move on to our next couple of fixtures for the very short Christmas break. Um, Very boring, very, very boring from an Inter's perspective again in the first half. I would actually say, and I said this in my match reaction, there are some games where you're poor or you're average for a long time, like that win against Cagliari, but eventually the team's individual talent is going to get you over the line. And for a spell, you will be the better side, which is what Inter was against Cagliari for probably, as you said, fair bits of the first half and a fair bit into the deep end of the second half as well. But for me, Peter, Napoli was a 100% troll win. I think we were the poorer side for the entire 94 minutes of the match. I think we had one bright spell for the first 11 or 12 minutes of the second. And we needed that penalty because it was all Napoli at that point. I think Handanovic had just made his first off the line save from Insigne from the back heel. We all saw him make another couple of clutch saves in that match. But this was a game where better side. I don't think I saw them as the better side for any period of the match. But what we did is what we stayed mentally strong. And to be honest, Handanovic had his first man of the match game of the season. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on Handanovic because we talk about him a fair bit on this channel. And most people who come on the channel and, myself have said it's time to move on. It's just a matter of reflexes and, physiology at the age of 38 years old. You're just not going to be as prolific as a goalkeeper. It's a position that definitely does depend on your age a little bit. So what are your thoughts on, first of all, the win against Napoli and Handanovic this season and going into next season, man?
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. It's a troll win. Inter were lucky to get a win there. Napoli deserved to win, and the way that they played and the way that they were able to attack. And if it wasn't for Andanovic, Inter would have lost this game. Um, just disappointing to see that, but just kind of understanding that's what Conte wants. Conte wants that dirty work type of defensive. We're gonna be cautious and then break on the counter. And he was happy with that. I think he was happy to win 1-0, and get those 3 points. In the end, in Italy, it's all about getting those 3 points and getting the win over a rival that could be a rival for the Scudetto race. Don't forget, Napoli's right there with Inter, with Juve, with Roma, and obviously Milan being on top. I don't know for how long, but they're on top for now. So definitely, this is a game that Inter, by winning, really challenge makes Inter be that strong team to win the Scudetto, strong candidate to win the Scudetto. But the way that we did it was just like, oh, that was terrible. That was brutal, and sure, nerve wracking. Andanovic, listen, he's gone down, but he's still a good enough goalie that he can make some big saves throughout the game. He's been at fault for a couple. Is he, the great goalkeeper that we've seen in the years past? No, he has declined, but he's still a good goalkeeper, and he also knows how to play the ball from his feet, which is important to his game and Conte's system. So he does have that extra, attribute. At the same time to look for a new goalie, I think, for next year. I think Andanovic, you can keep him on maybe on the bench, and Andanovic as a second goalkeeper, I think would be amazing for Inter. Amazing. The same way how Toldo had to phase out, and we had Julio Cesar, it might be time for Andanovic to phase out as well. But listen, the guy still has some punches to give, and it would be nice to phase him out with a nice Scudetto this year.
100%, man. Well said. Let's move on to the next couple of match days before we wrap up the Christmas period. Huge opportunity, brother. Huge opportunity for us there's no real such thing as an easy game at the moment. This is the kind of season where, the underdog teams and the mid-table teams can really put a dent because some of the big clubs are inconsistent, not just in Italy, all over the world of football. You are seeing clubs drop points like they would never drop in a separate climate, to be honest. I think we can all agree there. But Inter has a really big opportunity over the next 2 match days to maybe gain a little bit of daylight in the teams beneath us and maybe even get to the summit of Serie A and leapfrog Milan. AC Milan have 2 difficult fixtures coming up back-to-back in Sassuolo away and Lazio at home. Juventus have Parma away, and I believe their next game is against, I just want to get it right, Fiorentina in Turin, which they will definitely win, to be honest, because Fiorentina are horrendous. We have Spezia at home and Verona away. So despite the trickiness that is Spezia and the just overall very much improved Verona under Juric, Pete, how are you feeling going into these 2 fixtures? Start with Spezia because, it is a big opportunity for us to get the 6 points that we need. I said a few match days ago that these matches coming up against Bologna, Cagliari, Verona, Spezia, these are the must-win games. I could forgive a draw against Napoli. You can even forgive a bad loss against a big team. But we've got to keep getting these points, man, and we've got a chance to get them now.
100%. Listen, you win the Scudetto by beating these smaller teams. The teams that you're supposed to win, that's when you win the Scudetto. So it's important, no slip-ups. Spezia is a team coming up from Serie B. They have, in the beginning of the season, they surprised a lot of people, but I think now you see them starting to lose these games. And this is the time that Inter's got to show their dominance, show their superiority, and win this game. And win it in a commanding way. Not a 1-0, 2-0. I want a nice 3-0 win where it shows Inter's here with a purpose, and that everyone should fear or have to worry about playing Inter. Going on to Verona. Verona is a tough game. Juric has this team well prepared. They're very well structured defensively, tactically strong. You have a team that kind of models off the Gasperini model. Juric, played under Gasperini and learned under Gasperini. But the one good thing is they don't have a deep team, and maybe playing these games every 3 days is going to be a lot for a Verona, and this could be a perfect time for Inter to be able to save up on some players, maybe versus Spezia, and give some guys a rest. Make sure you win that game, and then Verona win that game, and then go to the Christmas holidays and New Year's holidays, refresh a little bit, and go out and start out January strong again.
We should be having a couple of players, both Chilean in Arturo Vidal and Alexis Sanchez, ready to go. We've seen Stefano Sensi have his best run of form since the start of last season, for God's sake. Yeah. Like, now, the only shining light, brother, of being out of the Champions League is our rotation is going to be at a level where, once again, the excuses, like, we're not even going to have a single second of time for the excuses, man. As you said, let's beat Spezia. Let's rest a couple of critical players, go in fresh against Verona, and get that win, man, because it's super important, because over this next period of time, I do believe some of our rivals are going to drop points. So in order to end this amazing chat with Peter, your thoughts on our 2 closest rivals this season. Let's talk just a little bit about Milan and Juve. You know what? We'll throw Roma into the discussion as well. They deserve to be there, definitely. I've said in a couple of my videos, I never really considered them Scudetto opponents or Scudetto rivals, but they just keep impressing on a domestic level. If you take away that loss to Verona, I'm pretty sure they're undefeated. Is that right?
Yeah.
There you go, man. And, they've still got Henrik Mkhitaryan is in the best form since he won Player of the Year for Borussia Dortmund before he even went to England. He's one of those versatile players up front that he doesn't really have a position, man. I think people are really overlooking Mkhitaryan as the free roaming left, right, central player that he is, and I think he's doing great things at Roma as well. So overall, man, who do you consider to be the biggest threats, and who do you think will drop off the race first? I'm really interested to hear your thoughts, especially on Milan and Juve under Pirlo.
Sure. So obviously Juventus, I think they're going to be the ones that are going to be contending for the Scudetto more than a Milan, more than a Roma, specifically because of the players that they have. I mean, when you have Cristiano Ronaldo, you have a guy that tactics and all your X's and O's can go out the door. Give the ball to Ronaldo, he'll score. This is a guy that can create, something out of nothing. He knows when the time, gets rough, he can come out in the clutch and win a game. And then don't forget Dybala, Cuadrado, De Ligt. These are all top players, man. So Juventus, they have a history of winning. They won the past 9 Scudetti. They have the winning mentality. Pirlo is a question mark. He still remains a question mark. But I think over time, he's going to get better. And I think, just in the fact that they're still in this shows that Pirlo, although he's important as being a man manager, right, being a player manager and keeping the locker room happy, his tactics and all his things that he's got to change and stuff, he's got to stop that. Play simple, play to this team's abilities, and Juventus is gonna be there till the end. Roma, I agree with you. I was a little skeptical with the team, but I think a Dzeko, Mkhitaryan, and Pedro front line is scary. These are guys that can work well off each other. You've got Dzeko that can hold up the ball, turn, move the ball, and Pedro and Mkhitaryan feeding them, taking men on. Something that Inter doesn't have. Inter doesn't have that trequartista or that player that can beat on a player. Maybe a Sanchez, but Sanchez doesn't do it as much. Lautaro very rarely does it, even though he might have the ability to. But Pedro, Mkhitaryan, they take it to you. And then you also look at Roma's defense. When you have Mancini, Ibanez, Smalling, who's the Italian, Kumbula, these guys are good defenders, nice size defenders that can play in that 3-man line. And then, you have a midfield of Lorenzo Pellegrini,
Morial.
Spinazzola, and Zaniolo's not even back yet. So this is a team that if they stay, within March, April in the mix, and Zaniolo comes back, they can give anyone a run for their money. And then going to Milan, I wasn't particularly high from the beginning. I don't think anybody was. But listen, they're doing the right job. And then even the games, besides maybe the Parma game. No, I'm sorry. Besides this last game, who did they verse again? I'm sorry. Was it Parma?
They dropped points. I think it was against Genoa. Yeah.
Yeah. So besides the Genoa game where they didn't really play so great and Genoa, got the tie. The Parma game, I mean, they had 20 shots on goal. They should have won. They hit the post 4 times. They should have won that game. So I think it'd be unfair for me to say that, it's only a matter of time that they start slipping up. They're still playing well. But I think over the long run, you see, if Ibrahimovic doesn't, he looks like now he's going to come back after January. Let's see what happens. Their defensive line without Kjaer isn't the same. So there's a lot of ifs on this team, and just a matter of seeing, if they can keep up with the rest of them. And I think just because of the players that they have and not having that experience winning, I see them maybe falling off before even a Roma.
Fair enough. I think it was on one of your podcasts with the boys, Gaetano said it perfectly. He said he identifies Roma as the team with the best system, the team that knows exactly what they're doing. And you said it perfectly. Dzeko is one of the best hold-up strikers in the world. Like Mkhitaryan and Pedro are 2 players who are perfect to run off him and to carry defenders and to feed the ball to him as well. And with that midfield, I think everybody skipped out a lot on Roma because they had a few board issues and backroom issues in the past year. I wasn't 100% sure they made the right decisions in letting a player like Kluivert leave as well, but he didn't exactly hit his stride at Roma. So I would agree with what you say. If they can continue, I think it's all about continuing to the back end of February, early March for any of these teams, Pete. The ones who are coming out mid to late February with the form, the momentum, and most importantly, the confidence in the results, they will be the ones that are able to take it to match day 36, 37, and 38. I'm pretty happy with that, man. We've actually covered a fair bit in this short amount of time. So, Peter, I'll just ask you an impromptu question on the top. Who's been your favorite player for Inter this season and why?
I have to say, listen, Barella, I don't know. I have a soft spot for Barella, man. I just have a soft spot.
I've got more than just a soft spot for Barella, man. I think he's the best midfielder on the planet.
It's the truth, man. He's just an all-around midfielder. You love to see when somebody gives everything that he has, every drop of himself, and that's what he does. He has the technical ability as well, as we saw from the volley. He's the most hardworking guy in that middle, and he really makes this Inter team tick, especially under Conte's system. After that, I would say Lukaku deserves a big round of applause for carrying this team as far as scoring goals. Lautaro hasn't been really as active this year, and Lukaku has put the ball in the back of the net when he has to. And we noticed when he was out, this Inter team looked a little shaky. He wasn't able. There was no direct ball to then play it off of. So Lukaku deserves a
Yeah,
mention as well.
of course. I would agree with Barella there. And next reverse question: who has been your most disappointing Inter player this season? It's almost the direct opposite from Barella.
Yeah. Well, so I know the question is definitely where you're getting at as far as Vidal, but I'm actually gonna say, and I don't want to be too harsh, but the left wing back position in general, Ashley Young, Perisic, we need a left wing back for January, and unfortunately, those two guys, they haven't been able to give enough quality in their play, and especially Perisic. I was expecting, okay, he's gonna come back, he's gonna want to win that spot, especially what he did with Bayern. They won the freaking treble, but for heaven's sake, and every time he plays, he's inconsistent. He doesn't put in that solid cross that I want to see, and I think Inter miss a left wing back, and hopefully in January, that's their priority.
Yeah, I get why you said Vidal, but it was actually a different answer for me. My biggest disappointment has been Raja Nainggolan. And, I
Ah,
don't even consider him an Inter player at the moment. And that's
yeah.
the saddest part. Like, had I known that it would be this much baggage and this much dead wood, I would have said just sell him, trade him for Cagliari's best 19-year-old youth prospect for all I care at this point. Just get him off the books. I'm just really, really disappointed, man, because I really felt as though same thing with Perisic. I thought you inject these players that still have the quality and who might be looking to just get that last one or two big seasons under their belt and win some more silverware. Not the because so physically demanding, and that's where I think Perisic is just lacking the motivation. Playing in a Bayern team in the Bundesliga, where he can almost play as a left wing forward a lot of the time, and now he's been made to drop back beneath his own line, halfway line that is, as a left wing back under Conte. I don't know. He's always struck me as a player with a little bit of an ego on him as well, and I don't think it takes much for him to say, "Oh, well, I might just go into reserve mode a little bit now." But it's a long season, man, and a player like Perisic can always come up good for 90 minutes if he does choose to stay switched on. Peter, my dude, thank you so much for joining us on Inter Worldwide, my man, and I'm pretty sure we'll speak again this season.
Sounds good. Thank you again. Forza Inter sempre, huh?
Forza Inter. Ciao, ragazzi.